From House Oversight, Congressman Brandon Gill is with it. Congressman, is Buttigieg out there doing damage control? Because the GAO says they didn't prioritize or have near-term plans to update these unsustainable FAA systems, that more than 100 air traffic control systems are in a mess. What do you make of all of this?
You know, he is doing damage control here. You know, for 4 years, we had an antiquated air traffic control system that was deteriorating. It was his job to fix that. And meanwhile, he was busy labeling roads and bridges and cars and our infrastructure racist. It's utterly absurd. And you know what? The American people saw it. They knew what was going on. They knew that there was an administration that was not looking out for him. And that's why they overwhelmingly voted for President Trump to get the adults back in charge.
So Buttigieg, on his watch, bridge collapses, toxic train derailments, including in East Palestine, Ohio. The FAA was hit with 6,000 delays in addition to Southwest's multiple meltdowns. And he's saying he's only seeing the cracks now. But weren't the cracks glaring back then?
You know, what you see later on is the impact of Buttigieg's failure. That's what we're seeing right now. The president inherited infrastructure that's deteriorating, a country that had been neglected by an administration who is more interested in political correctness and labeling our infrastructure racist or sexist or focusing on climate change than they were for looking out for the American people. These are things that should have been fixed under the Biden administration, and they failed to do it. Now it's up to President Trump.
Pete Buttigieg also complained about excessive regulations. Watch this.
That it is so hard to build and do things in this country. And I lived this when I was at the Department of Transportation. We got 20,000 infrastructure projects done, but we could have done more if it were easier to complete the things that we start in this country.
Not sure what he means here, because didn't Pete Buttigieg, social media is lighting up, didn't he install crazy woke regulations like prioritizing the employment of justice-impacted people with criminal records to install broadband equipment? We spent $42 billion on rural broadband without many connections there. And Buttigieg's Transportation Department demanded companies engage in, quote, intentional outreach to underserved communities, doing things like block parties in order to get contracts to build EV chargers. What's going on here?
You know, it's excuse after excuse after excuse from the left because of their failures. And let me tell you, every single time Democrats want to address one of these issues, their answer is not to allow the private sector to build roads or bridges more quickly. It's to tie their hands with red tape based on bogus environmental studies, or to try and hamper the ability of our federal government to actually fix these problems. The problem is Democrats. That's why we're here right now, and that's what President Trump is fixing.
Congressman Brandon Gill, thank you for being with us. Great to see you again. Now,
hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.